You know that smell when a server room has not been dusted for ages? It smells like ozone, burnt plastic, and unanswered help desk tickets. That has been my perfume for 15 years. I am Walter Finch, the person who makes sure your email works. I am the invisible backbone of Thornton Logistics. Invisibility is a superpower, but 3 months ago it started to feel like a burial shroud. I was sitting in my office, a storage closet that hummed loud enough to vibrate my teeth, staring at a budget denial email. Before I explain how I burned this place to the ground, understand the situation. The email was from Bradford Hunt, our new human resources director, who uses words like synergy unironically. My request for a basic firewall upgrade, a critical security patch to protect our database, was denied due to budgetary constraints. Budgetary constraints are corporate speak for spending money on luxury. 10 minutes later, I looked out my narrow window at the executive parking lot, and there it was. A brand new slate gray Porsche Cayenne. It glistened in the sun with temporary dealer tags. Stepping out of it was the CEO's wife, Evelyn Thornton, a woman whose primary contribution to society seemed to be posting quotes on social media. I watched her walk into the building, bypassing security because rules do not apply to the royal family. I knew for a fact the CEO, Charles Thornton, had been crying poverty in every town hall meeting. "Tighten the belts, team," he would say, looking somber. "We all have to make sacrifices." Apparently, his sacrifice was settling for the leather interior instead of the suede. I took a deep breath of my vape pen and pulled up the procurement logs. We see everything. When you buy a laptop, I see the invoice. When you subscribe to a premium software package, I approve the license. And when you try to hide a luxury vehicle purchase in the company ledger, you better hope the person reviewing the codes is an idiot. I am not an idiot. I scrolled through the back-end expenses for the month. It did not take long. There it was, buried under a generic vendor code, usually reserved for heavy hardware maintenance. Server rack expansion vendor, Stuttgart Logistics. The amount was exactly $118,000. I almost laughed. It was the kind of fraud that assumes nobody is looking. They listed a Porsche as a server rack expansion. I guess in Charles Thornton's mind, a car has a computer, so that is basically information technology infrastructure, right? My blood started to boil. Not the hot anger of a teenager, but the slow rage of a 54-year-old man who has followed the rules his entire life, only to get stepped on. I looked at my screen at the denied firewall request. We were running on security protocols from 2018. If a hacker decided to ping our network, we would fold like a cheap lawn chair. But the CEO's wife needed heated seats. I reached into my desk drawer. Underneath a pile of cables, I kept a physical spiral-bound notebook. Digital files can be wiped, but a physical notebook is forever. That is analog vengeance. I opened it and wrote the date, the time, and the invoice number. Then I wrote asset tag number 00459, Porsche Cayenne, allocation server maintenance, user Evelyn Thornton, note. Does not appear to improve network latency. The tattered red notebook was the most dangerous object in the building. I was just waiting for them to hand me the match. The rest of the week was a blur of petty indignities. Bradford Hunt, the human resources director, started hovering around my department. He was looking for inefficiencies. He asked me why I needed 3 monitors and why my team's overtime was so high. Because the system is held together by duct tape and prayers. Bradford, I wanted to scream. While you are optimizing synergy, I am manually rebooting the Exchange server at 3 in the morning so you can get your morning newsletter. But I just smiled the tight-lipped smile of a man visualizing his murder. "We need to be leaner, Walter," Bradford said, leaning against my doorframe. "The board is looking for cuts. We need team players." "Are you a team player?" I looked at his expensive haircut, then thought about the Porsche. "I am very committed to the infrastructure of this company," I said. "Good," he said. "The upcoming all-hands meeting is going to be a pivot point. We are trimming the fat." I did not know I was the fat. I thought I was the muscle. We think competence protects us. We think that if we just do our jobs well, we are safe. We forget that to a leech, the blood is just a resource. I spent the weekend preparing not for a presentation, but for a war. I backed up my personal emails. I synced my special files to an encrypted cloud drive that the company firewall could not touch. I went through the red book and cross-referenced every entry with a printed copy of the invoice. which I kept in a fireproof box in the trunk of my Toyota Corolla. Paranoia, maybe, but just because you are paranoid does not mean they are not out to get you. Monday morning came with the heaviness of a funeral. The all-hands meeting was scheduled for 10 o'clock in the main atrium. The air conditioning was broken again, so the room was stiflingly hot. It smelled of cheap cologne, nervous sweat, and lukewarm pizza. While we discussed layoffs, I stood in the back near the exit. Always know your exit route. Charles Thornton was up on the stage wearing a shimmering suit. He was talking about headwinds and market challenges. He looked tanned and rested, like a man who had spent the weekend driving a very fast car that was technically a server rack. Then Bradford Hunt took the microphone and the atmosphere shifted. He scanned the room and his eyes landed on me. I was about to be the example. We have to address some cultural issues, Bradford said. Insubordination, resistance to change, legacy employees who think they own the place. He did not say my name yet, but the crowd parted. People shifted away from me like I was radioactive. I clutched my bag. The red book was inside. I took a deep breath. I was ready. Let us talk about the information technology department, Bradford Hunt repeated, letting the words hang in the air like a bad odor. Specifically, the refusal to adapt to modern budgeting strategies. My heart hammered against my ribs. I saw my team, 3 guys in their 20s whom I had trained from scratch, look down at their shoes. They were terrified. If the manager goes, the grunts are next. Charles Thornton stood behind Bradford, arms crossed, looking benevolent and stern. Walter, Bradford said, and he said it with a smile. That was the worst part. He smiled like he was doing me a favor. We have discussed the firewall upgrades. We have discussed the budget. And yet, I am hearing reports that you have been bad-mouthing leadership to your staff, creating a toxicity that we just cannot have in our family-first culture. I had not bad-mouthed anyone. I had stated facts. Fact, the servers are overheating. Fact, the licenses are expired. Fact, we are drowning. But in corporate land, stating a negative fact is an act of treason. It is insubordination, Bradford continued, his voice rising for theatrical effect. And frankly, it is incompetence. If you cannot manage a budget, you cannot manage this department. Effective immediately, we are terminating your employment. The room gasped. A collective sharp intake of breath. You do not fire a 15-year veteran in an all-hands meeting. You do it on a Friday afternoon quietly. This was a show trial to scare the employees. They wanted me to shout and make a scene, but I kept my hands in my pockets to hide the shaking. I felt the cool vape pen. I looked at Bradford. He looked triumphant, waiting for the applause. You can leave your badge at the front desk, Bradford said, dismissing me with a wave of his hand. Security will escort you out. In high-stress situations, your brain dumps adrenaline. I saw the sweat bead on Charles Thornton's lip and food stuck in the receptionist's teeth. A man in a gray suit stood by the water cooler, holding a clipboard. He was a forensic auditor brought in to justify the cuts. A cold calm washed over me. If I was dead anyway, I might as well haunt the place. Walter, this is not a debate, Bradford snapped. Security took a step forward, but I shot them a look and they froze. I walked forward, heels clicking on the linoleum. I pulled the tattered red notebook from my bag. I stopped in front of the accountant. He looked up, startled. You are the forensic auditor, right? I asked. He nodded slowly. I am. The name is Simon Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher, I said loud enough for the back row to hear. I am being fired for managing the budget incorrectly. I think you should see the real budget. Walter, Charles Thornton shouted from the stage, the benevolent father mask dropping. That is company property. You are unauthorized to show that. I ignored him. I handed the book to Simon Fletcher. It is a personal log, I said. My handwriting, my observations, but the invoice numbers are real. You can look them up in the main database, assuming they have not been deleted yet. Fletcher took the book. He opened it. Walter, step away. Bradford was coming down the stairs now, looking flushed. This is harassment. Page 42, I said to Fletcher. Start there. Fletcher flipped the pages. The room was paralyzed, 80 people holding their breath. Even the hum of the vending machine seemed to stop. Fletcher found page 42. He adjusted his glasses. He read the entry. He paused. He squinted. Then he stopped looking at the book and looked up at Charles Thornton. Mr. Thornton, Fletcher said, his voice dry. Thornton froze. This is a disgruntled employee, Fletcher. Do not waste your time. Mr. Thornton, Fletcher repeated, ignoring the CEO. Why is there an entry here, cross-referenced with a hardware invoice, that lists a Porsche Cayenne under server maintenance? The silence that followed was a vacuum. It sucked the air out of the room. You could hear the fluorescent lights buzzing. I looked at Bradford. His face had gone the color of spoiled milk. I looked at Thornton. He looked like he was trying to calculate how fast he could run to a non-extradition country. Thornton started, but the words died in his throat, and Fletcher continued, turning the page. Why does the off-site data storage facility address match a condominium in Aspen? I smiled. It was the smile of a wolf watching the sheep realize the fence is gone. I will leave you to it, I said to Fletcher. I have to go pack my box. I turned around and walked out. I did not look back. I could feel the chaos erupting behind me. I made it to my office. I had about 10 minutes before they cut my access. I sat down at my desk. I did not steal data. I just ensured my personal backups were secure, and I sent one final command to the server. A little dead man's switch on the logging system. If anyone tried to delete the transaction history for the last 3 years, it would archive to a read-only partition and email a copy to the board. My screen flickered. Access denied. It did not matter. The seed was planted. I grabbed my things and walked out of the building. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Toby Higgins. Walter, Charles Thornton is screaming. Bradford Hunt is crying. They kicked everyone out. What was in that book? I smiled and typed back. Just the specs, Toby. Just the specs. I put the car in gear, driving right past the slate-gray Porsche. I rolled down my window and spat on the driver's side window. Landed perfectly. Did it heal a small part of my soul? You bet it did. I drove to a dive bar. It was 11 in the morning on a Tuesday. The bartender, Ted, grunted as I ordered a whiskey sour. I had just fired my boss. While I drank, I thought about the Red Book. The Porsche was just the beginning. The cloud storage redundancy project was even bolder. They billed the company $45,000 for off-site storage, but the vendor address was a residential plot in Florida owned by Bradford Hunt's mother. I knew the auditor would find that on page 56. My phone buzzed with a text from the receptionist. Security had locked down the executive wing, and they were shredding files. Shredding is amateur. You can shred paper, but you cannot shred a digital footprint unless you know exactly where to look. And the only person who knew the map of the network was currently drinking cheap whiskey. I realized then that I had crossed a line. I was a whistleblower, and whistleblowers do not get severance packages. They get lawsuits. I needed to be smart. I opened my personal laptop, a beat-up Dell that ran Linux and connected to the bar's Wi-Fi. I logged into my bank account and moved my savings to a different bank. I changed my passwords and locked down my social media. Then I saw a notification, a login attempt on my personal cloud storage from the office internal internet address, specifically the executive subnet. They were trying to get into my personal files, guessing passwords. It was desperate. I typed a quick command. I have a script set up, a honeypot that looks like a folder labeled illegal downloads evidence. If you click it, it executes a script that loudly plays loud music at maximum volume and locks the screen for 5 minutes. I watched the log. File accessed. Script executed. I chuckled. Somewhere in that executive suite, Bradford Hunt or Charles Thornton was staring at a frozen screen while loud music blared. You are smiling, Ted said, wiping a glass. I just imagined a clown getting hit with a pie, I said. Classic, Ted said. But the smile faded quickly because I knew what was coming next. Threats and lawyers. Thornton was a cornered rat and rats bite. I needed real legal counsel. I Google searched whistleblower attorneys. They were expensive but promising. I finished my drink. Ted, keep the tab open, I said. I have a feeling I will be back. I walked out to my car. My phone buzzed with an email from a generic address. Subject, we need to talk. Body, Walter, this is Fletcher, the accountant. We need to meet, not at the office. There are discrepancies that go beyond the car. Page 88, the consulting fees. I need context. Can you meet me at the diner on 4th in an hour? Come alone. I stared at the screen. Page 88, consulting fees. The consultants, 3 women who were listed as user experience experts but had 0 online presence, and whose invoices were always paid via wire transfer to accounts in the Cayman Islands. Fletcher had found the harem. I started the car. The engine rattled, but it started. Hang on, Fletcher, I whispered. I am bringing the receipts. The diner on 4th has sticky menus and coffee that tastes like battery acid. It was perfect. Nobody from the executive suite would ever be caught dead here. I spotted Simon Fletcher in the back corner booth. He had the red notebook open. I slid into the booth opposite him. He jumped slightly, covering the book. "Relax, Fletcher," I said. "It is not a sting. It is just felony embezzlement." He adjusted his glasses, looking around nervously. "Walter," he whispered, "do you have any idea what you have handed me?" "A one-way ticket to unemployment?" I asked. "Or a Porsche?" "The Porsche is the least of it," he said, tapping page 88. "These consultants, 3 of them, billed at $5,000 a week each for 2 years. "Yeah," I said, pouring sugar into my coffee. I looked up their internet addresses. Curiously, they all logged in from the same luxury apartment complex in Miami, and they never submitted a single report. Not one. Fletcher looked pale. I checked the vendor registry. The tax identification numbers belong to shell companies. "Walter, this is looking like money laundering or paying for services that are definitely not related to information technology." "Escorts, Fletcher," I said flatly. "Charles Thornton is just a cliché with a corporate credit card." Fletcher rubbed his temples. "If this gets out, the stock will tank, the board will be liable, and the federal authorities will get involved." "Good," I said. "Burn it down." "I cannot just burn it down," he hissed. "I have a fiduciary responsibility. I need the digital trail, the wire transfer authorizations." "But they locked me out." "Fletcher," I said, leaning in, "if you look for a user account named sysadmin ghost and use the first line of the company mission statement backwards with a special symbol, you will find a real-time mirror backup." Fletcher pulled out a notepad and scribbled it down. "If you use that," I warned him, "you burn them all. There is no going back. If they find out, they will come for me." "They are already coming for you, Walter," he said. "I got a call from legal on the way here. They are drafting a civil suit." "Let them come," I said. Fletcher stood up and threw a $20 bill on the table. "If this works, this is incredibly stupid." "Stay safe, Walter." He hurried out. My phone rang immediately. Unknown number. "Hello, Walter." The voice was smooth. "This is Gordon Briggs, representing Thornton Logistics. We want the logbook back. We are prepared to offer 6 months of severance pay if you cooperate. If you share it, we will seek significant damages. Your house, your pension, your future." "Is that a threat, Gordon?" "It is a reality check," he said. "Gordon," I said, "you can take your severance package and shove it." I hung up and blocked the number. I was going home to monitor the fireworks. My apartment is a simple 2-bedroom on the 2nd floor. The 2nd bedroom is my sanctuary, equipped with 3 monitors and a server rack. I poured a glass of cheap wine and logged into the Ghost account. The dashboard was a waterfall of red text. User Bradford Hunt executing delete command. CFO office accessing wire transfers. Alert. Bulk delete attempt blocked by admin policy. Fletcher did not waste time. He must have used the Ghost account to initiate a legal hold. A legal hold locks every file. I watched Bradford Hunt try to delete the same folder some 6 times. Sanity is doing the same thing over and over. "Bradford," I whispered. Then the email started flying. "Urgent. Stop the auditor. She knows about the renovations." Renovations. I recalled page 62. "Office improvement on the 3rd floor, $80,000. We do not have a 3rd floor. The building only has 2 floors. But Bradford Hunt just bought a new house with nice marble countertops." A new alert popped up, a system-wide broadcast. "System maintenance, do not log off." They were trying to confiscate machines to scrub them locally. I could issue a command to crash every laptop on the network. The nuclear option. But innocent people like the receptionist and Toby would lose their work. I was not them. I was just the janitor cleaning up the mess, not burning down the house. Instead, I sent a message to Toby via an encrypted chat channel. "Toby, if anyone asks for your laptop, give it to them, but take out the hard drive first." Toby replied, "They are walking down the row now. Bradford looks like he is having a stroke. Fletcher is writing down everything he says. It is glorious." "Good," I murmured. Then my connection was terminated. Fletcher must have locked me out to cover my tracks. The damage was done. The legal hold was active. The silence in the apartment was heavy. My doorbell rang, a long, insistent press. It was 7:30 in the evening. I looked through the peephole. It was Clara Simmons, the CEO's executive assistant, holding an envelope. "Walter," she said, her voice trembling. "Can I come in?" She was wearing a trench coat, clutching the envelope like it contained a bomb. Cut the crap, Clara, I said, handing her a glass of wine. Why are you here? Did Charles send you? Charles did not send me, she said, slumping onto the sofa. Charles is locked in his office shredding documents. He is panicked. I coordinate his travel and off-sites. I answer the phone when his wife asks where he is and say he is in a strategy session when he is at a luxury hotel with a young consultant. She opened the envelope, which contained photos and notes. I kept my own file, Clara whispered. The mistress's apartment lease paid by the company credit card, the receipts for jewelry, the paternity test results from 2019. My red book proved financial fraud. Clara's file proved moral bankruptcy. Together, they were a nuclear warhead. Why bring this to me, I asked. Because Fletcher is a suit, she said. He will cut a deal to save the board and the stock price. He will sacrifice Charles but bury the rest. I want them to burn Walter for how they treated us. Clara had lied for them for a decade, and they treated her like office furniture. Cheers to that, I said. We went through her file. It was disgusting and hilarious. Charles Thornton had expensed a hair transplant as roof repair. Bradford Hunt had expensed a dog as a security canine unit. Then my laptop chimed with a new email from the board of directors. They recognized my unique knowledge of the legacy infrastructure and wanted to engage me as an external security consultant for $250 per hour, with a $20,000 upfront retainer. The condition was a non-disclosure agreement. They want to buy you, Clara said. They want you to help them bury the bodies, I hit reply. Dear board, my consulting rate is $500 per hour. My retainer is $50,000. Regarding the non-disclosure agreement, no, I will assist Mr. Fletcher in uncovering the truth. I hit send. Clara laughed. You are crazy, Walter. The next morning I put on a blazer and drove to the office. My badge did not work. I pressed the intercom. Roy, the security guard, answered. Walter, I cannot let you in. You are banned, Roy, I said. I am here to see Mr. Fletcher. If you do not let me in, I am going to tell him you have been using the security monitors to watch movies. There was a pause and the gate lifted. I parked in my usual spot. The lobby was post-apocalyptic. I went to the conference room and found Fletcher. My red book sat in the center of the table. Fletcher looked up exhausted. The board rejected your fee, but they agreed to give you immunity if you help us decrypt the ghost logs. Deal, I said. Where do we start? The CFO, Fletcher said. He called in sick and is trying to fly out of the country. I tracked his company phone, I said. He is at the airport, Fletcher smiled. We spent the next 6 hours dissecting the company. It was worse than I thought, phantom employees and kickbacks. Bradford Hunt walked in around noon, demanding to know why a terminated employee was there. Sit down, Bradford, Fletcher said. Bradford, I said, I am looking at your home office stipend from 2021. You claim $12,000 for an ergonomic workstation, but the invoice is from a company that sells hot tubs. Bradford froze. It has therapeutic features for my back, he stammered. A hot tub, Bradford? Fletcher asked. Everyone was doing it, Bradford yelled. Charles Thornton bought a boat. He listed it as Marine Logistics Research. The room went silent. Fletcher slowly picked up his pen. A boat, Fletcher repeated. Do tell. Bradford realized his mistake. He had just ratted out the boss. Too late, I said, typing. Searching for Marine Logistics. Here it is, $250,000 for a yacht. Go to your office, Bradford, Fletcher said. Just wait for the police. This crossed the line to criminal fraud and embezzlement. Bradford literally ran. He is going to the shredder, I said. Let him, Fletcher said. We have backups thanks to you. The whiteboard was a cancer of connected fraud. The elevator doors opened, and 2 federal agents in windbreakers walked in. The back of their jackets read FBI. Fletcher stood up and buttoned his suit. Showtime. I watched as the agents walked toward Charles Thornton's office. I heard a shout, then a thud. Then I saw Thornton being led out in handcuffs. He looked at me, his face filled with confusion. He looked like a man who could not understand how the help had become the executioner. I raised my coffee cup. Drive safe, I whispered. The days following the raid were surreal. The office became a ghost town. I was no longer an employee, but Fletcher brought me in as a special advisor. The executives were out on bail, blaming each other. Bradford Hunt resigned. I replied to the all-staff email list. Good luck with the hot tub, Bradford. Cubicles erupted in laughter. Still, innocent people suffered from delayed payroll. Toby Higgins got a job at a bank the next week. I wrote him a recommendation describing him as the only intelligent life form in a black hole. The board appointed an interim CEO, a woman named Diane Croft. She was terrifying, caring only about survival. The office was stripped bare when she called me in. "Walter," she said, "Fletcher tells me you are the reason I am here, cleaning up this mess." "I just provided the flashlight," I said. "The mess was already there. He says you know where the digital graves are. We need to rebuild the infrastructure from scratch, secure and compliant. That will cost money," I said. "I know," she said. "I am offering you your job back as Director of Information Technology with double your previous salary and full autonomy." I stared at her, then declined. I did not want the weight of Thornton's ghost. "I do not want to work here," I said. "You can scrub the books, but the rot is in the drywall." "Then what do you want?" "I want to be a consultant," I said. "I come in, I fix your mess, I bill you $500 an hour, and I go home. I do not answer to human resources. I just fix the systems." Diane Croft studied me. She saw I was not asking, I was telling. "Fine," she said. "Contractor status, but you sign a non-disclosure agreement for future work." "I will sign for future work," I said. "But the past, the red book, stays mine." "Fletcher has the book," she noted. "Fletcher has a copy," I lied. "I have the original." She sighed. "Fine. Go fix the servers." I threw an old Thornton Logistics stress ball into the trash. Bradford Hunt viewed my social media profile. I updated my headline to CEO of Redbook Consulting, specializing in forensic cleanup. I saved it. I walked down to the server room, my old sanctuary. It still smelled of ozone, but the hum was different. It was a heartbeat, and I held the controls. But there was one loose end. Bradford's mother, the one with the cloud storage sunroom. I pulled up her address. Florida. I was not going to Florida, but I knew who was. I emailed the Internal Revenue Service tax fraud tip line, attaching the invoice. Forgiveness is divine, but audits are mandatory. The final act happened in a boardroom 3 months later. I was invited to testify to the full board of directors, investors from New York who owned the holding company. They sat around a mahogany table. Diane Croft was there, Fletcher was there, and sitting at the end, looking shrunken, was Charles Thornton. He was out on bail, allowed to attend to answer questions about asset recovery. I walked in wearing jeans and a band t-shirt. I did not care. I was billing them for my time. "Walter," the chairman said, "Mr. Fletcher indicates your records were instrumental." "Thank you. You are welcome," I said. "We have one final discrepancy," the chairman said. "A sum of $500,000 is missing from the accounts. It was withdrawn in cash over 5 years. Mr. Thornton claims he does not recall where it went. Mr. Fletcher cannot trace cash." "Was there another shell company?" They all looked at Thornton. He stared at the table. I looked at Thornton. I knew where the cash went. I had found a folder on his laptop. It was hush money for an illegitimate child from 2015. If I revealed this, it would destroy his family. His wife, the Porsche lady, would leave him. It was the nuclear option. Thornton looked at me, his eyes pleading. He was begging the janitor for a lifeline. I thought about Mercy. I thought about the high road. Then I thought about Clara. She was struggling to find work because her name was tied to the company. "The cash," I said slowly, holding Thornton's gaze. The room held its breath. "The cash was used for lifestyle enhancement," I said. "Gambling debts and sports betting, no paper trail." Thornton's eyes widened. I had lied. I covered his secret. Why? Because gambling is a vice, but an affair destroys a family. I did not care about him, but I did not want to ruin a child's life. Also, knowing I held his darkest secret was a far better punishment. I owned him now. The chairman sighed. "Gambling. Pathetic. We will add it to the civil suit." Thornton slumped. He mouthed a silent thank you. I winked at him. "Don't thank me. You are still going to prison." I stood up. "We are done," I said. "I have a system migration." "Yes," the chairman said. "We will wire your fee." I walked out of the building. The air smelled of freedom. I got into my Corolla, and it started on the first try. Good girl. I drove home, sat on my couch, and opened a beer. I turned on the television. My phone buzzed. Deposit received, $50,000. I smiled. Then another notification on social media. A video showed a young man named Dylan wearing a vintage military jacket. My father's jacket, the one Evelyn Thornton had accidentally donated to the charity drive 3 years ago. The caption read, "Thrift Store Gold." I stared at the screen. The war was not over. I cracked my knuckles and opened my laptop. "Okay, Dylan," I whispered. "Let us see if your tax returns are as vintage as that jacket." I took a sip of beer. I was healed. We were all healed except Dylan. Dylan was about to have a very bad week.